Another commitment for Boston College and Bill O'Brien in the state of Massachusetts. We're going to tell you everything we know and why Bill O'Brien is off to a hot start in the state of Massachusetts.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, this is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get yourself started. All right, folks, another commitment. We're going to talk about what BC has, what they need to do in this state, and we're going to give you an update on TJ Power in our final segment. It's a big, jam-packed episode of recruiting talk here on Locked On BC, your team every day. So on Monday, we got another notice. You got the excited tweets from all the coaches and yours truly with the wire GIF. If you guys don't know what that means, I cover BC for 247, the industry leader in recruiting coverage, and I knew BC landed somebody. So when you see a wire character, my favorite TV show, you know they got somebody. But the big one, and you saw it in their tweets, was that this was a Massachusetts recruit. We don't know the name yet of this recruit. I can tell you two things. It's not Tommy Rupley. It is not Hardy Watts. Those are the two, number 1 and 2 in the state. I can tell you it's not them. You have to hold on. Sometimes I know things, sometimes I can't tell you guys because I don't want to ruin it for a recruit. But this is not a talk about a specific commitment right now. This is a talk about where things stand in the state of Massachusetts. Because right now, if you were to look at 247's top 10 recruits in the state of Mass, BC's up there with 3 of them right now. 2 of them, excuse me. You have Micah Amity and you have Griffin Collins. I expect that this new one could also be in that top 10 as well. You also add in that BC's in good shape with Tommy Rupley, who was on campus, I want to say at least 4 or 5 times this spring. Hardy Watts, it's going to be a tough pull. That's going to be a tough pull. We'll talk about them in the second segment. But already you can feel the change here without even knowing who this recruit is with what Bill O'Brien is doing with local recruiting. Because go back last year, you look at what Boston College brought in terms of top Massachusetts recruits, and they were good Massachusetts recruits last year, and recruits they wanted, and you would see out of the top 10, number 1 went to Notre Dame, number 2 went to Penn State, number 3 went to Pitt, number 4 went to UCLA, number 5 went to UConn, number 6 went to Duke, number 7 was part of their team, but then they dropped him, was Brown, Bentley, I think, whatever team he went to. It's not a FBS program. Number 8 went to UVA. Number 9 went to Vanderbilt. Number 10 out of the top 10 was the only local recruit that ended up at Boston College. You go back to 2023 under Jeff Hafley, and you had Jaden Skeet and you had Max Tucker. And those were the only 2 that you had back then. So you only have, when you saw what Jeff Hafley did, he struggled. Dottrell Jones and Jaden Skeet. He was interested in a lot of these local recruits. Believe me, as much as Jeff Hafley wanted to press that he wanted just the best recruits ever, or that would fit his program, if you went onto 247, you looked at the class of 2024, the class of 2023, many of these guys came to campus. Many of these guys took official visits, and still Boston College couldn't close the deal. I sense this is changing with Bill O'Brien. You brought in a coach that has local roots, that has a pedigree that is resonating with local recruits, and that is a big deal. Massachusetts is not Texas. It's not Georgia or Florida in terms of the richness of recruits around here. However, I feel like Bill O'Brien can build a base here with the recruits in this state and get excitement around the Commonwealth by recruiting well around here. One of the ways to get excitement around Boston College is to get the local communities excited. But if you don't have anyone on your team from Massachusetts, how are you supposed to do that? But if you bring in a Micah Amity from Zavarian, and you bring in Griff Collins from Worcester Academy, and you look at guys like Rupley and Watts, there is your base right there. That's how you build the basis of your recruiting class. You bring in guys like that, and they don't have to. I mean, obviously, Watts would be like your crown jewel possibly of your class, because I mean, this is a kid that's got quite a bit of offers. But then that's when you send out your killer recruiters like Daryl Wyatt and Ray Brown to go out and get those top level guys from wherever they go, from Texas or Oklahoma. Oklahoma's a big state that BC's looking at right now. That's a Ray Brown jam right there. You get those guys out there too, and Jonathan DiBiaso is doing a nice job as well. That's how you put together a good recruiting class that will get Boston College back on the map. That'll get them a recruiting class that didn't look like some of the last couple of years under Halfley. That'll get folks excited and say, "Hey, look, Bill O'Brien's doing exactly what he's saying." But first, he had to own Massachusetts, and he's doing just that. In addition, there was a 2026 recruit, Marcelino Antunes, who also committed about a month ago. He got his initial rating from 247, and he's rated an 87. He only has one offer right now, and he committed to BC basically on the spot. But he's already the number 2 recruit in Massachusetts at going into next year. You've already landed one of the top state recruits. This is what Bill O'Brien has preached that he wanted to do. And he's executing. And he's executing at a high level. In a moment, I'm going to talk about the 2 guys he needs to close this class out with to really put that fence around Massachusetts and do what he said to do. He was going to do. We'll get into all of that in just a moment. Now, Game Time is the place to go if you are like me and you like going to baseball games. I love going to Fenway Park, and I love going to the Woo Sox, wherever I can go. And now Game Time is the official sports authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and easier. So you don't need to just go to Major League Baseball. You can go to NBA too. With killer last minute deals, all in prices, views from your seats, and their lowest price guarantee, Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. You know, you go to a place like TD Garden, you want to make sure you get your best seats, that you can see the parquet, that you can see everything that you want and get those prices that you are looking for. Game Time has all of that, and that's why I love them. So download the Game Time app today. Create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDCOLLGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 bonus bets, win or lose. You can bet on anything. Now, if you're watching that Miami Heat Boston Celtics game and you put you could make an alternate bet. You could jack up Derek White's points to 20 plus, and if you bet on that on FanDuel, you're going out to dinner for a nice steak dinner this weekend with that, because that would be a nice wager right there. So bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit fanduel.com/lockedon to make your first bet an automatic win with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. And we are talking about recruiting. Now, you could get experts out there that could come on and talk about BC recruiting, but you got one right here. I cover it for Eagle Insider. I know my recruiting stuff. I hope you guys enjoy my insights into what's going on with BC football recruiting because it's exciting. And as a local guy, as someone who's grown up in Massachusetts, the emphasis on the state uh, brings something back to BC that I feel has been lacking. And it's been lacking since the early days when Steve Adazio said he was going to build a fence and then decided to kind of let the fence become full of holes that you could fit you know BJ Raji through. You have now a coach that resonates locally. He's from the area. He went to Andover. He went to Brown. This is a coach for the Patriots. Bill O'Brien is hitting it, and he's doing it with a lot of the guys that even Halfley missed. Like I look at guys like Griffin Collins or um, uh, the Micah Amity, and you look at these guys, and in years past, maybe Halfley would have landed them, maybe Adazia would have landed them, but all it took was usually like one offer, and they were gone. I don't feel like that's going to be the case with O'Brien. This is a guy that's resonating, and you see that resonating right now with the roster, right? If you went on 247 or Twitter and you just looked at like Matt Zenitz, who's a national reporter, over the last like 3 weeks, it's just been nonstop transfer portal news as players are just like shuffling. And, Deion Sanders is kicking off half his team. Miami's it's crazy what's going on in college football. But one place it's not happening is at Boston College. BC's only lost 3 players right now to the transfer portal. They lost Joseph Griffin, who hadn't been practicing, so not a huge surprise. They lost Connor Litton, which we talked about last week, backup kicker. Maybe he's a graduate. Maybe he just wants to play again. Totally get it, right? And then finally, today, what I've heard, I heard one more player would be possibly entering the portal. And I think it was the one that entered today, and that's Matt Reevy. And you can't be surprised he enters the portal. He's like 4th on the depth chart at this point. He's a grad student. He was never going to see the field. He never was able to differentiate himself. But last of what I saw, Jacoby Robinson basically jumped him. So he's going to get a chance to hopefully go to a program, and I don't know what level that'll be, to play. And that's great. You want to give him a chance. But for me, I look at what BC is doing, and I'm saying they're building a culture. Now, to continue to build that culture, they're going to have to land some big name recruits. And to build that wall around Massachusetts, they're going to need to land some big name recruits. And the two big ones, the two big fish right now, are Hardy Watts, an offensive lineman, the top recruit in the state from Dexter Southfields High School. He's rated an 88. He's going to be a 4-star before the end of the summer. I can guarantee it. And Tommy Rupley, who has built up quite the offer list himself, and he's a defensive end from Belmont Hill Schools. This is number 1, and this is number 2. As I said earlier, Rupley has been on campus a lot, and I thought that was great. The fact that you had him, I mean, he was on campus for practice it felt like every Saturday. He went to the spring game. He was at scrimmages. BC did the work to get him on campus. But I could also say last year, Gerby Lambert, who ended up at Notre Dame, that big 4-star recruit from Catholic Memorial, he was on campus a lot too. So I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but it felt like it's pretty good. And Rupley, of the two, I feel like BC probably has the best chance because the schools that they're going against, the schools that Rupley is taking official visits to, are basically peer schools. They've got Duke, they've got Northwestern, and they got Rutgers. And the timing of Rupley's visit, I feel, works in their favor. A lot of times I like when BC can get in early because then you can get them to pop and commit and not take their other official visits. They actually have Rupley last. And I like this for a reason because I feel like he's going to get a chance to go to all his other visits. And I can tell you, this is a kid that likes BC. He's not going to not take a BC visit. So he's going to have BC dead last. And I feel like that gives BC a really good chance to close on this kid. He's a 6'4" defensive end. He fits a lot of what BC's making an offer for a lot of defensive ends. So he would be a big one. And that's one O'Brien has to close on. Another name is Hardy Watts, and this is the Gerby Lambert of this class. He's rated an 88 right now. He will become a 4-star, as I said. Name a school they've offered him. In the last month, I've seen Virginia Tech, Tennessee, Alabama, Clemson, and Georgia all offer him. Before the run of SEC schools, I was like, oh, BC could have a good chance here. But realistically, I don't know. I don't know how you sell to a local kid. You can stay here and play at Boston College over going to Georgia or going to Alabama or going to Clemson. That is a tough sell. I don't doubt that Bill O'Brien has the chops to try and land a kid like this. I mean, both the former head coaches, both Jeff Hafley and Steve Adazio, were able to land massive recruits over SEC schools. Clinton Burton Jr. Was committed to Florida, had Alabama offers. I know he fizzled out, but that was a big commitment that Hafley landed. And Adazio landed Harold Landry, who Auburn and I think it was South Carolina and North Carolina were pushing really hard for. So they both have been able to do that. Can Bill O'Brien do this? I think he could. It's going to be something worth watching. And the thing that you're going to want to watch for with Watts, the big thing is going to be that official visit schedule. Official visits are what the school pays for. They are unlimited now for kids. Kids can take as many as they want. So he's got a ton of big offers. Will he take one to Boston College? Is going to be the big thing. I've heard through the grapevine, the staff was pretty confident that he was going to do it, but that was before the run of SEC schools. So we'll have to wait and see. I would love to see that would be the icing on the cake of a great recruiting, what could be a really good recruiting class. So Hardy Watts, Tommy Rupley, those are the two names you're going to want to watch for. And I can tell you, they're not the names neither of these guys are the names that committed on Monday night, but we'll have to wait and see when that kid will commit. So stay tuned to Eagle Insider, and we'll talk about it on Locked On Boston College whenever it happens. Now, in our final segment, we're going to switch over to basketball, who is waiting on a big transfer portal. There's a big transfer portal offer out there. We're going to talk about who that is and what the latest is on that transfer. We'll get into that in just a moment. All right, game off. We got to pause here to talk about Monopoly Go. I know what you're saying, flag on the play. You already talked about that, but there's just so much good stuff in this game. In Monopoly Go, you can team up with friends for time tournaments where you work together to build up each other's boards. The more you win together, the more awesome prizes you unlock. And there's so much to get to. Unique stickers you can trade with friends to complete albums for big prizes, cool new pieces to travel the boards with, and hilarious emojis for taunting your friends. Plus, Monopoly Go feels new and exciting every day with constantly changing tournaments and challenges. A ton, including their new mini games like digging for treasure or robotic pachinko machines. There's always timed events that help you win big, like massive multipliers for everything you win or rent frenzies. It's always something fun to discover in Monopoly Go. So get off the bench and go download it now free on Google App or the App Store. Game on. This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. Hope you're all having a great day out there right now. We are talking recruiting, we're talking transfer, and I am so glad that you chose me to talk to you about that. Now we're going to switch over to basketball. Basketball, who lost 6 players to the transfer portal. They've brought back 3 so far. We have Deion Brown, Josh Beadle, and Chad Venning. The big beast, the big white whale out there, and I'm going for the Moby Dick reference here, is TJ Power. And everyone is waiting to find out what is going on with DJ Power. He is not a recruit like some other basketball players that you hear tons of, media. Like, he's a quiet guy in the media. You don't hear a ton about him. We know that he was at Wake Forest last week. We know that schools like Virginia, Kentucky, UConn have showed interest in this recruit that was a 5-star out of Shrewsbury, Massachusetts, that spent a year at Duke, that is now in the transfer portal. because he didn't play all that much last year. We also know that Boston College is heavily involved in this, and in my impression, is the leader for TJ Power. You're hearing that here, folks. Okay. My sources, guys on my site, swear that Boston College is the team to beat right now for Powers, and that things look close to being done. Now, if you follow on Twitter, Brett Ryder, who does work for Eagle Daily, says he's going to be that Powers going to be on campus at BC tomorrow for an official visit. It's been quiet because he doesn't talk a lot, but we're going to have to wait and see. This would be a recruiting land or transfer portal land that could change the landscape around where BC goes next year. Yes, he only averaged 2 points per game last year, but this is a kid that is a blue chip local recruit. BC never lands them. He was a 5-star. BC never lands them. If Earl Grant and Friends of the Heights can somehow pull this off, this would be massive for BC basketball. This would be game changing and bring a level of excitement to the program that we have not seen in a while. You lose Quinton Post, you lose some of those other guys, and you felt like things were going to fall apart. But when you bring in TJ Power, when you bring in a kid like this that can bring the pedigree that he does, he's a legacy. This would be huge. And it all sounds like it's pointing in that direction. I am still too much of a nervous Nelly to put a 247 crystal ball in for him. I should. I really should. I just I've been burned too much by Boston College in the past that to see a kid like this with that level of talent to come over to BC over other schools, until it happens, I have a hard time believing it. But we'll have to wait to see. I think the end's coming soon. And we're going to find out if he ends up as a Boston College Eagle, which would be a pretty big deal. Thank you all for listening to our show today. We'll be back again tomorrow with more recruiting news. Hopefully, we'll find out who that recruit was that committed to BC. Maybe we'll get some more TJ Power news and everything in between. Follow us on Twitter at AJBlack247 or at Locked On BC. Make sure you subscribe to wherever you get your podcasts like this. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button. It does help us get to more Boston College fans. And we'll see you again tomorrow for another episode of Locked On Boston College, your team every day.